Well, hello again, and the weather is really picking up outside. It's going to be quite warm today. Still puffy clouds around, and there will be until about 10 o'clock. But it's going to be quite a nice day. Quite a nice day. We could all do with that. Amazing how a nice warm day improves the mood. And so does a victory by the national team, strangely enough. No matter whether you're a big sports fan or even a big football fan. But when the national team wins, there's always that collective feeling of, we did it. That's our country. And the England team won last night, not terribly convincingly, had a very good first half, but then backed off in the second. But as one of the pundits said, sometimes Gareth Southgate's strategy is get a lead and then protect it. Don't chase trying to be a big winner. Just look after being a winner. Who am I to discuss strategy of football? I'm not, but it was an interesting win, and I found myself getting quite excited and quite tense as the time ticked by, and so the Serbs got closer and closer to putting the ball past our own goalkeeper, but they never did. We came out the winners. Jolly good. Very good. Now, let's take a look at our election situation. Just to recap what happened last week, and forget the promises that both sides are making, is the reality will be what economic situation in the world is, and that to some extent is not in anybody's capability to determine right now. There are wars going on. There are economic slumps, economic recoveries. All these things will determine how prosperous or otherwise we can be as a nation. So people can make all the promises in the world, apart from which the alteration of a government's philosophy, and if Labour get in, it looks as if they're going to, they'll have a very different outlook on the way things should be run to the Tories. But it just shows the arrogance of the particular political parties who can't. They don't understand how they can look so silly. The Conservatives are saying to Nigel Farage, or saying to the electorate, actually, don't vote for reform. because what it will mean is it will split the right-wing vote, and it'll give a bigger victory to Labour than they should have. Now, I'm all for a modest victory for either side, because if you don't have a really strong opposition, then you've got a government that is capable of just taking over and doing their own thing. There's nobody to safeguard our interests by putting up a fight. That is a big danger. But has it never occurred to the Conservatives that if, in fact, they are out of favour, and they are, but that Reform, the political party now headed up by Nigel Farage, is outdoing them in the popularity stakes, is instead of saying don't vote for Reform, why don't they say to Reform, let's identify where you're likely to outpoll us, and we'll withdraw our candidate, and we'll let your party win the seat, and then we can make a deal as fairly right-wing parties, and we should have a much stronger situation in terms of being an opposition. No. If it's not a Tory opposition, they don't want to know. And that's hardly in the interests of the country. So we are faced with a situation where we're likely to see a landslide. I'm damn sure that Reform, now that they're beginning to appeal to true Conservatives, not the ersatz version that we've had represented in Parliament, will want to, no matter whether it's in number of seats or percentage of poll or whatever, will want to establish their bona fides as being a legitimate party. So for the Tories to ask them to step aside, really, it is what to all intents and purposes they're asking them to do, to step aside. Why don't they actually step aside themselves? Because they're onto a losing cause. Doesn't occur to them. Or if it occurs to them, they are so arrogant that they think, well, we've been around for years, you step down. But I'm all for new and innovative ways of handling basic society. And if it upsets the political apple cart to do that this time, let's upset the political apple cart and see what comes out at the end of 5 years. 5 years isn't very long in the scheme of things, and it certainly is not very long in political terms. And historically, there have been many situations where we've changed from right to left and back again, and that the party that's defeated when it comes back into power doesn't stay around for very long. And I think that we've reached that volatility. But anyway, what we've got locally is Maria Caulfield, the sitting MP, who has agreed to come on, and today we'll try and determine the time. We've got Bernard Brown, the Reform, who has agreed to come on Wednesday. We've got the Lib Dem, James McCleary, nice young man, been around for quite a while, but always in local politics. He's now dipping his toe into federal politics, and very little is being said about where the Lib Dems are standing at the moment with everything that's going on. So it'll be interesting to see what James's take is. Stuart is dealing with James McCleary, so I'm not quite sure when they've agreed that he will come on. Those are three groups that three parties that are standing. We've got a candidate who have agreed to be interviewed on Mirador television. The Greens have said quite curtly, no, we won't go on. I think that the sort of rough and tumble of the politics, federal politics, where this undoubtedly is the first time that they really had somebody, well, they've been in government locally. I'm not a bit surprised that they've said no. They've made sure that they haven't put their noses over the parapet locally. They have not been a huge success, despite the fact that they got a huge majority in seats, and they managed to wipe out the Conservatives locally. It's quite astonishing, really. And we've got Labour, who the Lib Dems claim have already given up on winning anything. But nonetheless, they've run a candidate. We haven't heard back from him. So at the moment, we've got three out of the six. One we know won't stand. One is a little splinter party. It's just simply got a name. The lady is more than welcome to come on, and in fact, we are duty bound, having given airtime to one party, to giving airtime to the rest of the parties. So if that lady wishes to come on, we were very happy to take her. But I doubt if she would be considered a serious candidate. So there's only really, well, there are two who would be in doubt. But I think that we will get the four other senior parties, most of whom stand a chance, I suppose. James McCleary certainly was the preferred candidate before the Tories imploded. Maria Caulfield has been our MP for 5 years, so she's got everything to fight for. Reform are on the way up. Be interesting to see how they fare here. And Labour, well, we don't know yet. But all are from substantial parties. You know something. It wouldn't surprise me if Labour don't give everybody a good run for their money, although they've never traditionally been the heartland of socialism in Lewis. One cannot tell how people are thinking or viewing nowadays. So we have an interesting race, I think. And here he is. Here's Philip. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm okay. I've had a gentle walk round to my surgery for a new anti-pneumonia jab. Just shows as you get older, you get offered more jabs.
Yes, you do. I had mine. I don't know, about a month ago, I suppose.
Yeah. We can't work out whether my wife Jackie has had one or not. She doesn't seem to get the text that I get, so we're going to have to inquire about that.
Yes,
because
I think there should be a record in your local surgery as to whether you've had it.
No, there is a record. There's also a record online if you can manage to go through the hoops to register for the NHS app.
Right.
Which I did. I haven't come across anything so Byzantine in years. But I managed it in the end. The worst bit was scanning my face to match my driving license photograph. And in the end, I solved it by my driving license photograph was taken by the post office in Littlehampton. And I had to take my glasses off because of the reflection, the glare. So the driving license photo has no spectacles. And that I realized eventually, being a very slow man, that was the problem. So as soon as I took my glasses off, the scan was then acceptable. And that was the final bit of ID, because once you're registered, as I now am, and I can't do it for Jackie, sorry? I'm hearing from the heavens that Jackie, well, if you've registered for the app, Jackie, then it will give you your medical record and tell you whether you've had the pneumo. I'll just shut the door, Keith. 36 years of heckling. I don't know. But no, you started late today, and I did wonder whether you were not very well, but thankfully you came on.
Yeah, I was only a couple of minutes late, I think, wasn't I?
Well, you started at 8 minutes past 9.
No, I've been on. We now, after a discussion with everybody and advice, ending programs after an hour. So I came on at 8 and ended at 5 minutes to 9.
Right. Well, in future, I need to go into the library and have a look. What's there?
Then I came back on at about 9 minutes past. Yes.
Yeah.
I
think the hat you're wearing today is probably my favourite.
Well, actually, strangely enough, I quite like this hat because it gets the most comment. The only other one is
because it is, the colour is palatinate. It's not purple, it's called palatinate, and I recognise it because that's the colour of Durham University, which is where I went. As did Mrs. M. So the scarves, the sports shirts, whatever for the university were all palatinate.
Uh-huh.
And we were led to believe that was the name of the colour.
Right.
I may have misremembered that, but I don't think I have.
It's terrific.
So,
The other hat that gets some comment, and I hadn't realised that it had become rarer, is my deer stalker.
well, you are the only person, apart from Peter Sellers, who I've ever seen wearing a deerstalker, to be honest with you. But it's rather comical, and you should wear it more. You should wear it when you are tolerating Stuart. It will add a comical edge to the programme.
I shall. Yeah. I'll take that under advisement.
But I mean, I don't know whether they ever were a fashion item. I think Sherlock Holmes used to wear one, didn't he?
Yes, indeed, he did.
But no, they're very, very, very dated. No disrespect, but they're very dated and very rare.
Yes. Actually, one of the things that I also would like, because they were very fashionable in the sort of late 70s, early 80s, and that is, I think that they are called an ulster, and it's a cloak.
It's a coat. Yes.
Yes.
I know that purely because of the crosswords I do.
Yeah.
But yes, it's a sort of cloak come cape, and
yes.
It's called an ulster.
That's right. Yes.
Yes, I learned that some time ago.
I've even looked in the when I could walk anyway. I've looked in the second-hand stores, and I do look on eBay to see whether I could find them, but they are very, very rare, and the only ones that appear are in very good condition, and people are asking sort of £2,000 for them.
I'm sadly, I'm totally unsurprised by that. The rarer something is, the more
yes,
it attracts those with more money than sense.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm not getting into bidding for an ulster at those levels.
No, well, don't. But it just shows how well off some people are.
Indeed. I wonder if that's going to end. What's your all sorts of promises are being made by particularly the socialists about job creation and money in
I know,
and so on. Which normally means to me that exactly the opposite will happen, and we'll go through a period when there will be very little money around. Do you think that will have an impact? Will it have an impact, for instance, on how much Manchester City and Aston Villa can pay for their players?
Well, that's not a governmental decision.
No, it's not. But I'm saying, will that sort of money be floating around in the economy?
No. I mean, let me start by saying this. I heard on the radio this morning that nearly 40% of British people polled as to whether they listen to or watch the news, nearly 40% have said they find the news in whatever format either uninteresting or downright depressing. And inevitably, and I had this reaction as well, the events in Gaza and Ukraine are simply depressing. And so all I do is listen to the radio on Radio 3, and the Tories have responded to the Labour proposals by saying it will create a multi-billion-pound black hole. In other words, it's the familiar old jibe at the Labour Party. I won't call them socialist because I agree with Harry, they're not socialist. In the same way the Conservatives are not really Tories anymore.
No.
This is all an amorphous centrist blob, as far as I'm concerned. But it's the same old jibe, Keith, isn't it? You'll remember longer than me because you're older than me. It's the one thing that Labour have always been criticised for.
Yes.
Boom and bust.
Yes, that's right.
And traditionally, the Conservative governments have been trusted with the economy. Now, I can't say, because I'm not an analyst and I'm not an expert, I can't say whether that is the case anymore, but I'm pretty certain that if Starmer is Prime Minister, Rayner is Deputy, and as Harry points out, the currently shadow Chancellor, the female who is ex-Bank of England, so in his view, ex-Quango, one type of mentality, one track financial mind, it'll be a mess. It will be a mess.
Yes.
I mean, I discussed this because two of my kids, bless them, came down for Father's Day. Now, I accept that Father's Day is a contrivance. I mean, actually, Mother's Day, you as a churchgoer, you know, like I do, that it's actually Mothering Sunday.
Yes.
And it's relevant to your church, the Mother Church. But no, that's become Mother's Day. And so we have to have a Father's Day as well. God knows how far we're going to go. Should we have a Nephew's Day, an Uncle's Day?
Yes.
You know, anyway, a third cousin day. I mean, anything could happen in the next half hour. But Jessica, my lovely daughter, firstborn, and Oliver, who you have met at least down the stream, they came down and we were discussing this. Now, they are appalled with me, literally appalled, that I'm even considering voting for reform. I intend to vote for reform. Their contract, as they call it, in other words, a manifesto, but Farage has said, I don't use the word manifesto because the public know that word as meaning promises that will be broken with a few lies thrown in.
Yes.
And
he's absolutely right.
Published today, but I imagine it's very similar to the contents of the leaflet that I mentioned when Harry was last with us, which I scanned to him and which he read with considerable enthusiasm. That floats his boat. If he were a British resident now, he would vote reform. I mean, no doubt whatsoever. But my kids are horrified. It is confirmed for them that I am a racist, that I am everything phobic you can imagine, that I'm chauvinist, and I'm a fascist. So I'm actually delighted with all of that because I've been telling them that for years. And they haven't believed me. But now they do. They know exactly what I'm like. To the extent that our neighbour across the road, who is an ardent Labour Party follower, Jess and her mum went out for a walk early afternoon, and Paul, the neighbour, he's got all these leaflets and stickers. So what does my daughter do? She gets a load of stickers and sticks them on our front window. Vote Labour. And the adhesive on the damn things is so good I can't get them off. And my wife is reluctant to remove them because she thinks I'm a loony as well. So there we are. But
yes,
I just can't trust the Labour Party. I just can't do it.
no, nor me.
And I've got no respect for the Conservatives. I mean, the picture on one of the private eyes I get given by Paul, the Labour man, is of Sunak in the Commons. And this is a real photograph of him heckling Starmite, as the private eye calls Starmer Starmite, i.e. you love him or hate him. That's Private Eye's nickname for Starmer. The other one I loved was, it's like a questionnaire with boxes. Please tick any or all of these boxes as to how you feel about Angela Rayner. And the boxes were ginger, gobby, northern, just don't like her. And then the next one is all boxes ticked. I loved it. Oh, it's so funny, the eye. There was another cartoon, I think I may have sent you it because I sent it on to Maybe. And it was a bloke having his fortune told. And the fortune teller is saying, all I can see are non-existent or disrupted journeys because of train cancellations and no staff. You know, which is his future, poor old Mark. So that's my basic position. I just can't trust them.
Yeah.
But looking at the photograph of Sunak and all these cronies behind him, you know, what a shower.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trust any of them with my grandmother.
No, absolutely not. But the interesting thing is that when it comes to the economy, Sunak, of course, was a chancellor for a while and had presented 2 budgets to Parliament, which we followed quite carefully. And he is a pretty fair orator, and he got everybody excited. But I actually had a former analyst from the city with me, and our conclusion was it was all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
This wonderful budget that he presented actually wasn't an element of truth in it at all. So I've always assumed that he carried that through to being prime minister, and that his handling of the economy is all smoke and mirrors along with everything else.
Well, in fairness, I think Jeremy Hunt is a pretty good, safe pair of hands. I've certainly never trusted Sunak. But, you know, he's a goner, Keith.
Yeah.
I just do not see him surviving in any shape or form. And of course, I don't know, rather like Blair, you know, he'll just go into the shadows, maybe go back to America with his ultra wealthy wife. That's another thing. There's another spoof picture in the Private Eye, and it was Sunak and his wife dressed to the nines. And the bubble from Sunak is, darling, you look $1 million. And she says, only $1 million? How rude.
Yes, I think you sent me that. I thought it was very funny.
But, well, you know, nobody in reality has a crystal ball. But I'm in no doubt there will be a Labour government. And I just hope that Reform get as many seats as possible. to try and kick the Tories into shape to present a strong opposition.
Well, if once the election is over and we see how it shakes out, it wouldn't surprise me if the move for the Tories to join Reform as opposed to the other way around doesn't gain strength.
Oh, it will gain. It will
Yeah,
gain huge strength.
yeah, because the
Yeah.
rump,
It won't be the other way around.
so-called parliamentary Conservatives, is going to be no better than it is now.
No, there you are going on about rumps again. You like rumps, don't you? But no, you're right. That's the way it will go. You know, the likes of Rees-Mogg. I mean, he's ideal for Reform.
Yeah.
You know, it ticks every box for him. And I don't see him as having any loyalty to Sunak.
No. And I would doubt that those people who are true Conservatives would have any loyalty to the parliamentary party once they're in opposition.
No.
I think there'll be a lot of defections.
Yes, there's going to be a right old shake-up. I mean, ironically, my daughter, not so much Ollie, he's not really into politics. I'm not saying Jess is, but I was saying it's going to be a red landslide, and she said no. The word on the ground where I work and where I live in West London and etc. is it's going to be a lot closer than that. A lot closer than that. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody trusts anybody. Frankly.
No. Well, the fact is that I think that we've had a whole group of people in politics who really are lightweight. We haven't had any serious politicians who are able to handle the rather complex and serious issues which a government needs to handle nowadays.
Well, a leaflet came through the door the other day for the Conservative Party, and it was urging us to re-elect the current Tory MP for Arundel and South Downs. It was a vacant document. It was just photographs of him, and inside, in stark contrast to the Reform leaflet, there was nothing in this Tory leaflet at all. It was basically saying, he's the incumbent, he's not done you any harm, you know, he'll try and support your interests. It was actually a very complacent document, because this area, as I've said boringly so many times, is true blue. But I honestly think Reform are going to give them a shock.
Yeah, well,
even if they don't take the constituency, the majority will be cut to a pretty worrying level.
Yeah.
We'll see. So I've become, I'm afraid, I'm not sure it won't happen mirrored all much, I fear, but I've become one of those people who I'm just going to rely on the radio now for the news, because you know the websites are depressing.
Yes. The websites also, I find they're put up as experts, as analysts, people that I've never heard of. Now, okay, that doesn't mean to say that they're not good or not clever, but it just seems to me as if they're actually importing anybody who is capable of writing a couple of words together and that have no knowledge whatsoever of politics. So I don't have much faith in the online stuff either.
Well, in law, an expert is defined as someone who has a depth of specialist knowledge that is well beyond the wit of the average person. That's what an expert is in criminal law. If a person fails that test, he or she is not entitled to give expert evidence. Well, I think you can imagine that the people you're talking about, and I agree with you, would also fail that test.
Yes.
I remember years ago when Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French, we can't call them comedians anymore, can we? But the comedians.
Oh, let's go back to plain language. I refuse to be bullied into silly nonsense.
Well, they did a really funny double act comedy show. And one of the sketches was a mick take out of the then ITV breakfast programme. Because all you got on the ITV breakfast programme was a series of anonymous, never heard from, never heard of people claiming to be experts. Well, French and Saunders absolutely ripped the you-know-what out of the programme. It was one of the funniest and most memorable, and it was every programme. So every time the programme came on, you knew that it was going to come up as a two-person mick take. It was funny. I must try and look it up on YouTube, actually. Very funny, but that's the point, isn't it? You know, experts.
Yes, but I mean, just the average. For instance, the other day, the Guardian, is recognised as a biased newspaper, but the language that it uses is to hell with the proper language. It used ordinary language, but its headline was about reform taking the lead is that the electorate move to the ultra right.
Well,
I mean, how crazy!
That is classic Guardian. It's a shame about the Guardian because it is actually a very readable, intelligent newspaper.
Yes, in many respects.
And its sport pages are second to none. The Guardian sport correspondents, in my opinion, they knock the rest into a cocked hat. But yeah, it's when they come out with ultra right. I mean,
yes,
Farage is not ultra right; he's right wing.
Yes,
they've just made one of their members resign because it was discovered that a decade ago or something stupid, he made some comment on social media about how right Enoch Powell was, and the way to keep your country is to vote for the BNP. Well, he's been forced to resign by Farage because of that historical comment. So Farage is doing his best. There's another one as well who's been suspended. He's doing his best to weed out the likely embarrassments. But again, that is the sort of thing that the Guardian will stir up.
Yes. But as Harry says, our colleague Harry Atherton, it really the right-wing parties are centre-right. They're not extreme at all.
No, they're not.
Marine Le Pen has brought her father's party back into the centre. And he was extreme right.
She has, but to me that's a bit like Hitler Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of a decent analogy. Yeah, she's still a wolf in sheep's clothing, in my view.
Yeah, well, maybe.
You don't lose those views. And she was a staunch supporter of her father.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about being able to change views, Philip, because at 18 or 19, like a lot of my colleagues at university, with this freedom of thought and so on and so forth, and here we are, we're not at school anymore, and not having teachers tell us and so on. So you tended to become very left. The moment that you graduated and went out into the real world, you went back to being right.
That's true. That's true. I came across many people like that at Durham, who came from incredibly wealthy backgrounds, and they were all right on and with this and with that. And I'm gonna walk around in a pair of dirty dungarees and be terribly lefty and whatever. Well, I can name at least three of them. I won't name them, but I know at least three of them. One went on to be an MP's private secretary. The other one, another one, worked via her domestic contacts, worked for Farrers, who are the Queen's solicitors or the King's solicitors. So these people go back to their roots. They can pretend to be as fake as they want. But I found, with my background, I could sniff them a mile off, but there we are. It's a long time ago.
Yeah. Anyway,
I can pick you up if you want.
Sorry?
Mrs. Emmy's going out. She wanted us both to know that we can now be very loud.
Now be very inappropriate.
Oh, and we can be inappropriate as well, Keith.
Cheap laughs.
She. Bye. Actually, Ollie bought me this for Father's Day. It's a book full of dad jokes. It's an American book, and you can tell that by some of the language that's used. But there's some good stuff in there.
Is it? Give us a sample.
Right. I attended a noisy legal hearing. The judge started yelling, "Order, order." So I said, "A pastrami on rye, please." 3 tons of hair have been stolen from a wig factory. Police are combing the area. All the toilets in the police station have been stolen, but detectives have nothing to go on. I just couldn't bring myself to quit my job at the bakery. I was underpaid and the hours were lousy, but I needed the bread. And this one is very apposite for me. Having too much sex can cause memory loss. I know that because I read it on page 87 in a medical journal on the 14th of November 2019 at 3:19 p.m. Do you get that one?
Yes.
Did you get that one?
Yes.
Good. I don't expect you to laugh.
I find these things. I love people who come up with these things because it's not the sort of thing that I would discover, but it's the sort of thing that I enjoy when it's read to me. Incidentally, the chief of staff has arrived. If you want to say good morning, Declan. Hang on.
Don't disturb the poor lad.
Here he is. No, he. We were talking yesterday about how everybody. loves to see him.
Yeah, okay. Hello, Ron.
Well, quite right too. The man's a gem.
Sorry?
I said quite right too.
Absolutely, yeah. And a terrific chief of staff.
Well, you know, I do what I do.
Yeah, when he's there. When he's there, yes. I can see the bag.
Well, he's a man of many parts.
He certainly is.
Yeah. I mean, half the time he's out fixing the Red Devil.
No, he's obviously a fixer. He fixes he gives you a computer to use. He fixes the Red Devil. I mean, he's like a carer for you. You're an old road.
I think a
another
lot of
one
people
is-
in the pub are kids.
My cat has just eaten 3 mallards. He's a duck-filled fatty puss. This morning I coughed up a pawn, a knight, and a bishop. I think I've got a chest infection.
They're dad jokes.
Yes.
Excellent. Someone got a Father's Day book.
This is a Father's Day book, yeah.
Yeah, dad jokes, yeah.
They're brilliant. I love a crap joke. Anyway, I must go and do my till.
Okay, just before you go, because the status of the black horse is as important to Mirador as anything else. And yesterday lunchtime was very busy.
I was heaving,
Yeah. And how was last night?
Yeah, it was very busy as well.
All right.
Yeah, with a bumper day yesterday.
Right, we're doing very well. The vault is bulging this morning.
Yeah, in one hand, out the other. That kills the pain.
Well, it would be nice to think. It would be nice to think that Mirador has had something to do with that. However, Declan runs a great pub, and I know this from when I worked in Lewis. The pub has a reputation beyond Mirador, Keith.
Yes, I know, but we are able to urge people to come here when they might. Yes.
Yeah. Everything has its own little impact on the pub.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I must go and do my work. Monday morning's my busiest day.
He's Monday. We can't disturb him too much.
No. All right, I'm going to go sit in the office for a couple of hours.
All right. See you later.
See you all in a bit. Bye.
Bye-bye, Deck. I had a date tonight. It was perfect. Tomorrow I'll try a grape.
What? Sorry?
I had a date last night. It was perfect. Tomorrow I'll try a grape.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, I know. If you think that's bad, wait for this one. If I were to ask someone to marry me, I'd propose in an elevator, a lift. That way, I could quickly take our relationship to the next level. Dear Algebra, stop asking us to find your ex. She's never coming back. All right, it's enough. You're obviously worn out.
Well, Ollie bought you this, did he?
Yeah. He's got a very wicked sense of humour. But every present he buys me is spot on. I mean, like the on-air lamp that I showed you nearly a year ago now. That was my last birthday. But really good presents. Very, very kind of them. I tell them off. I say, look, come on. I mean, that book was quite expensive, actually, for an aspiring musician stroke teacher.
Yeah.
Paying London rent. That I actually he doesn't know it, but I put money into his bank account to cover the cost of the book.
Well, is my daughter actually sent me £50 on the basis that she's heard how expensive meals are in England, saying, "Will this buy you a decent lunch?"
I know restaurants around here that it would not buy a decent lunch.
Decent lunch, yeah, absolutely right.
It's it's the alcohol that they make the money on.
Absolutely.
I mean, the place I took my wife to for the wedding anniversary, wonderful venue, wonderful food. In fact, the food for what it wasn't that pricey. But the bottle of red wine I ordered cost me £42.
Oh yeah, I mean that was
the cheapest. That was their house wine.
Wow.
40. I couldn't believe it when I got the bill.
No, I mean that's.
I just said a bottle of house red, please, and they came in with the Pig wine, because the place is called the Pig. That's the chain that they work with. 42 quid.
Yeah, but it is a special restaurant, is it not?
Oh, I mean, we will go there again, but I will just have tap water. Seriously, because it's all or nothing for me. If I start on a wine, I need more. I'm afraid that's the nature of it's an addiction. There's no doubt.
Yeah, you're quite right. I'm the same. Once I get the taste of it, it just comes and flows, and particularly if the conversation and the company is good.
Oh, that definitely helps.
Yeah.
Or if the conversation's crap, I just put my head down and drink. So it works both ways, Keith.
Yes.
What about Liza? Is she able to come on today?
Well, I spoke to her last night, and she said that she would be here this morning. And I'm a little surprised that it is now 10:15, and she isn't here. So whether anything has happened in between time, I don't know.
Well, I hope not.
I hope not as well. But she has been slightly poorly recently. I'm
sure the last time she was on, either you or she said that she was recovering from pancreatitis.
That she was indeed. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what time is it? 10 o'clock she normally comes on.
She normally gets here about 10, ready to go on at about sort of anywhere from 15:15 to past.
Right. Because
so
10 o'clock our time is still Harry's regular slot, isn't
it? 10 o'clock our time. What? Sorry.
10 o'clock our time, 11 o'clock French time.
Yes.
On a Monday, unless you have asked him to do 9:30, it's normally Harry's.
Yeah, but of course he's not. I've already apologised to the viewers for Harry.
I hope they mend him.
Yes. But I have some other bad news now. Just tapping in here. John Prideaux can't do this week. Either.
That's from last week.
Is that from last week?
Yeah.
This came in at 10:05 this morning.
Oh, hang on. Yes, he can't do it. It's his grandson's sports day.
Yes.
They
But he said that he'll try and make it a bumper edition on June the 26th. So perhaps what we'll do is we'll try and give him a little extra time.
Yeah, but that's impossible because you've got Stuart coming in.
Well, it is with the election. It could be that interviewing politicians, they won't always be able to fit in with our time slot. So it's possible that we might be able to get a little extra. Let me work on it.
Right. So I'll calendarize it for June the 26th.
Yes.
The day on which, if I manage it, I'm 67.
But I don't see anything from Liza saying that she's not coming. So I expect to see her turn up any minute now, unless she's really so poorly that she's. Turning to last night, which everybody is talking about, did you watch the match?
No, I haven't followed international football for many years. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The English national team, men or women, no, they don't float my boat. They're just a massive disappointment. So I didn't watch the match. It was Jackie who made me aware of the results.
Right.
So
we were lucky to have that result, I think.
Well, I'm led to believe it was a bit of a stop-start stutter.
Yes. They played quite well in the first half, but the second half, I thought the Serbs took it, but they just didn't score.
Well, if you think about the teams that England will have to face if they get out of the group, it doesn't bear thinking about.
No. I
France,
agree.
Portugal, France, Spain, and Germany. The Germans aren't what they used to be, but they gave the Scots an absolute rogering.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolute rogering.
Yeah, and I mean, the most that we've beaten the Scots by is 2, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I just don't get it with Scottish football. It's always only a 2-horse race. And it's the Glasgow clubs, the old firm. It's
Yes.
boring. It's boring as hell. And they play each other because they're both so successful. They play each other millions of times.
Yes.
They might as well have a two club Premier League and let them play each other all the time.
All the time. The only time there was any relief from that was during North Sea Oil, when Aberdeen became
and that was under Ferguson. It was Ferguson who won the was it the European Cup? Yes, it was the European Cup. And Aberdeen won the European Cup under Ferguson. And I assume the title. But that's a long time ago, Keith.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so I just don't get it how the so-called lesser clubs are so rubbish. You know, they are just rubbish, and they always lose, either to each other or to the Glasgow clubs.
But remember, I was a director of Bangor Football Club in Northern Ireland, and that really was a 2 or possibly 3-horse race. But what it did was it just supported the fact that there were 6 or 7 other clubs, gave them a reason for existence, as it were. But it was a very similar situation.
You know, I mean, you see Brendan Rodgers there in his second spell at Celtic, you know, beaming like a Cheshire cat, which he's not, having won the title and maybe the cup as well. And I'm just thinking, you're deluding yourselves, because wait until you have to get into Europe, and they never do anything in Europe.
No, that's right.
I mean, I represented a proper jock from Glasgow about 2 years before I retired, and he was a rabid Celtic fan, and I had the temerity to say, well, yeah, you may win your Premier League and easily, but you go into Europe and you do nothing. Well, first of all, I thought he was going to hit me. And then he said, but that's Europe. It doesn't matter. And that's the attitude. I don't think they care.
Yeah.
The cricketing analogy is they are flat track bullies. And you may know what that means. It means Graham Hick, the occasional England batsman, was always said to be a flat track bully. If the pitch was flat, he could play every shot in the world and get rid of any bowler. If the pitch was dodgy, awkward, seaming, swinging in the air, he was a goner. And Celtic and Rangers are precisely that. They are flat track bullies. There's no real competition. It isn't a competition. And yet they think they've won the world. It's bonkers. Can you imagine them being in the English divisions?
Yeah, not at all.
No, well, we can imagine it. Where would you put them? If suddenly the Scottish leagues collapsed, and this isn't a strange thought, it was once thought.
Well, they might make the championship.
Yes, that's my view.
Yeah.
But even in the championship, 46, 8 games, it's a really tough division.
Oh, it is.
Taught a big lesson.
It is. Sorry, I'm just double checking on
Liza.
Liza. No, I heard a ping or two, but it wasn't coming into the inbox. No.
Now, what's happened with Prideaux, I know, is that they are very devoted grandparents, particularly his wife, Sarah. And she will have said, John, you're going to the sports day.
Yeah.
Whether you like it
right
or not.
too. Yeah. I mean, I know that I always felt it very keenly if my parents didn't show for any reason at sports day. I used to occasionally, even though I was quite fast in the sprint, I never used to get into any of the finals for sports day, but I did for the high jump and the long jump, believe it or not, even though I wasn't particularly tall. Those I did quite well in.
Yes, well, I'll be frank with you, I hated sports day. Although I could play contact sport like lacrosse, I played football. Individual athletics, javelin, jumps, nothing. Didn't turn me. Even now, I don't watch athletics or follow athletics at all, I'm afraid. You know, there was a time I would find, particularly when the British were quite good, I would find obviously the 100-meter sprint exciting because it didn't last very long.
Yeah. Seb Coe in the mile or the
Well,
15 meters. That was quite exciting in its day.
Sebastian Coe and the big competitor, I can picture him in my mind, but I can't remember his name.
No, I can't remember his name either. But yes, there was a second.
Yeah,
it came from Brighton, I think.
Was that the 400 or the 800?
The 800.
Yeah. Yeah, there was Sebastian Coe and Levitt. That doesn't matter. Yeah. So no. In fact, on reflection, I think I'm losing interest in pretty much everything, which is a shame. Not Manchester City, of course. But
what about the cricket? You're a cricket man too, aren't you?
I'm a cricket man with the traditional forms of cricket. Together with my best mate who lives over on Sark, we're very, very keen on test match and county championship games over here. I can say, well, I used to like the 50 over one dayers when it was county against county, but now it's mercenaries. It's called the 100, and it's been based on that bloody Indian Premier League, and you buy your players.
Yes.
So it's all fake. You know, when it was Lancashire against Kent,
yes,
as it used to be in the 70s and 80s, they were the big names for what was called the Gillette Cup. You may remember the Gillette Cup.
Yes. I was in the pub the other day. Well, I mean, I'm in the pub every day, but Deck put on the present World Cup.
Well, this T20 nonsense.
Yeah, they had teams like Namibia and so on.
Oh,
where the hell do they get their players from? Because Namibia is a desert, you know.
Well, they do. Whether they're living abroad, I don't know. But this tournament is in America, which I find bizarre. I'm not saying the Yanks don't play cricket; they do, as do the Canadians. But it should have been in Canada, really. But so you've got the USA, Canada, Uganda, Namibia, and then you've got Bangladesh, Pakistan, India, England, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand. But there's a couple of other really obscure ones that I can't remember. But the T20 format it's there to generate money, booze, and it's for those with the attention spans of a gnat. And all they want to do is see sixes and fours. There's no finesse. There's no subtlety to the game. I mean, the Australian version is called, and it's well done, Aussie. It's called the Big Bash, and that's what it is. It's a big bash. No, and the irony is the one T20 match I attended here in Arundel when Sussex County Cricket Club used the Arundel Cricket Ground. I was bored to tears. It was the cricket was incidental.
Yeah,
it was all about the crowd and the bars, and I might as well have gone to the pub.
Yes.
I'd have paid less. Right, so shall we end the stream and wait for Liza, or?
Yes, I think we shall. I think it's a good idea to keep them in segments. We could give it 5 minutes and come back. If she's not here, morning. If she's not here, you and I could have a 5-minute chat just to wrap up the morning.
Okay, well, end the stream, and I'll re-enter when I see something's happening.
All right. Well, here we go then. is Toodle Pip, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
It's good night from him and good night from me.
Yes.
Thank you.